Okay, I admit I didn't see that coming actually. I thought that was Igneel, and indeed was related to Igneel, just not the way I suspected it to be. But we have just met the second dragon god, and this one points out an enormous amount of despair. This makes me a little bit worried. But the angry anime fan, the despair reviewer, appears here as the dragon that saves Natsu is indeed a dragon, but that looks like Igneel, but not completely. Very different too. He is the fire dragon god, Ignea, but who he is something very much different. It's as he mocks Meraphobia for losing his reason. Natsu recognizes the power of Igneel, but then says that, the fire dragon god says that his power is weak against the water. And here he points out the first huge despair, and that is that's not even his normal power. That's only half of it. Do you understand what that despair means? That I mean, we all knew technically that that wasn't his full power. After all, Toka the White Witch or the White Witch, White Mage, whatever, stole the Water Dragon God's powers, or apparently half of it. But the despair here is, even in full power, the team wouldn't have stand a chance. He is using only half of his power, and the team Natsu still cannot even scratch him. That's the despair, because that just means one thing. How the H are they gonna be able to defeat the rest of the dragon gods? Do not give us this kind of despair. It's not the fairytale way. Fairytale way wins through everything, through the power of friendship. So Igneous, who is actually revealed to not be as big as Meraphobia, though, actually turns the entire village into a sea of fire and raging flames. But Meraphobia dows it out, not to save the people, but just to save himself. As he lands before Natsu, he says to Natsu to use his part of his flames if he wants to defeat Meraphobia, but also says it's not a permanent power, but a little bit. Um, and as Natsu asks him why, he says that, as we all know, the line "this kid is mine. I won't give him to you." The meaning for that is Ignea wants to have a fight against Natsu, a fight where either one of them will die, a fight of who is the strongest one. That simply is reason. And why does it smell like Igneel? Well, as it changes into a human form with huge amount of tattoos, including a sun one, we see an arrogant look as he reveals his name is Ignea, the true son of Igneel. As the clue is reading that this wasn't a helping hand, but a beginning of a new calamity. So yeah, I mean, Ignea is technically not here to save anyone. The fact that he says to burn everything seems to suggest he is not as honorable as Igneel. Instead, but he knows of Natsu, and he wants to fight him. In a way, that sounds like a noble demon, but it also sounds like he is one for fight. But he has just pointed out two very important things. First of all, Team Natsu are not strong enough to defeat any of the dragon gods. And second of all, he can give Natsu a borrowed power that may give him the power to defeat half of the power of Meraphobia, but also that he wants Natsu to become just as strong as him, or maybe more, or just have an equal fight, meaning that there is a way for Team Natsu, or at least Natsu, to get stronger. But let's not forget the Dragon Eaters. They were no small cake either. So how in the H are Team Natsu gonna become strong to overcome this calamity? I have no freaking idea, but so far despair is winning, and that is not the fairytale way. Either way, the reveal though that this was a dragon god after all, and the true son of Igneel, was a bit of a surprise. People can complain about that, but at least it wasn't Igneel, you know. It was technically his true son. I'm actually surprised though that Igneel had a true son. He never even mentioned him, although technically I don't think the authors actually planned it that far ahead. Still though, how it makes sense though that the Fire King Dragon actually had a son that is a fire dragon god. Still not exactly known though what the rest is. Let's see, there were 5 dragon gods. Now we have seen one of water and fire. Does that mean that each of the other gods are the gods hmm, of elements? Actually, I just thought of something. I mean, I know I said this way before, but you all remember Godserna after her, right? His lacrimas. He did have a flaming power there, and he did have a water power. I wonder, is it possible? I mean, I know I said this in a previous video, but now the theory that he got his lacrimas from the power of the dragon gods are even stronger than before. Does that mean it's a gale dragon? And that should mean that there's also a cavern dragon. But who was the last one? I mean, he had 7, there's only 5, so that theory may not be true. But you can give me your thoughts if you have any.